let's dive into the tech. A little bit nervous about this, but explain like what actually makes your cathodes better than, I guess, the industry status quo, and what's the tech behind that?
Well, I brought some props along. I know you're really
Amazing.
excited when I told you about this earlier. So we have to go back to, I have to kind of explain how cathode materials are made today. Now I'm gonna sort of really kind of try and dumb it down to something relatively simple, but it goes back to the rock or where you get the lithium from, whether it comes out of a brine or out of a hard rock application. And here's a piece of spodumene. So this is basically a source of lithium in a hard rock sense. And this will get crushed and ground and milled into a powder, into like a gravel, and then eventually dissolved, and usually in some kind of a sulfuric acid, and then baked in a furnace in order to get out the lithium. And eventually that gets purified into a lithium powder, which is really just a white powder, like you see here. So this is a little hard to see through the.
Wow, amazing props.
Yeah, thank you. And so that's one of the precursors that goes in. Now the same thing happens with nickel. Now this is a much heavier prop actually, because this is actually nickel ore. And same thing. This will get crushed, ground, milled, dissolved in acids, and eventually spun in either into pure nickel metal or into salts of nickel. And here's a really, I picked a really nice bright green one for you. But this is a nickel salt. And this is very, very pure, and this will come together with lithium to make let's say a lithium nickel oxide battery. The same goes with cobalt, another pretty color. This one's purple. It could be different salts of different colors. Iron in the lithium iron phosphate battery, so there's iron, and these are really all the precursors that go into it. So what happens today in cathode manufacturing is they'll take let's take NMC, because that's really the most hotly discussed material out there. So that's got nickel and cobalt, the purple one here, and manganese, which I don't have on my desk right now, but it's a brown color. And these will typically get processed in a chemical process. They'll get combined together, usually as sulfates, and it's in a very it's a kind of an acoustic environment, and then they basically get precipitated together into a large kind of cylindrical powdered form, and then it gets dried as a powder, a mixed powder, and then that will go to a cathode producer who'll take that precursor, take this mixture here and mix it with lithium, and they'll grind and mill it together into another fine powder. And then that gets put into the furnace, and in a furnace it gets cooked just like a ceramic material, just like clay does in a ceramic process. It gets cooked into a ceramic powder, and essentially it comes out looking like this. I get very hard to see here, but this black powder you see here looks like coffee grounds if you were able to take a close look, and that's a cathode powder. And those are all the steps that typically happen, except that with the really modern advanced materials, like Tesla uses, let's say in their NCA, or like any of the high nickel NMC materials, they require a protective coating on all those little particles of powder. And sometimes it's aluminum, sometimes it's titanium, there's zirconium, there's many different types of coatings that people are applying. And that has to be done in a secondary process. So you make this powder, you soak it in the required material, you dry it, and you fire it again in the furnace to get this nice hard crunchy coating around each one of the little pieces of particle. And that's typically how a cathode's made. Now, once you get to this powder, it gets mixed with solvents and binders and made into an ink, a very thick ink, and spread onto a piece of foil, dried, compressed, and that forms your whole sort of electrode, your cathode electrode. And then the same thing happens with the anode with respect to graphite. They get assembled with a separator in between them, and either rolled or folded into a battery. So that's kind of taking you from the rock all the way to the battery.